weapons that were already being used. And by the time the extraterrestrials showed up and we were detonating nuclear weapons, we were able, at Roswell, at our only nuclear bomb squadron, to have one of these weapons in a radar dome or configuration that caused the two of those to crash.
Right.
There were bodies on that. Some of them were living. And I have a witness who actually handled one of the living ones as late as 1950, 51, here in Virginia, not far from where I live, at Camp Perry, P-E-A-R-R-Y, very top secret facility. Now, what's interesting is that that genetic material from some of those bodies have subsequently been cloned from a number of different species. Now, you know, I have a daughter with a PhD in neuroscience and genetics from the most prestigious university in the world. And what I've done is I've looked at this sort of what the current state of the art of science is in the non-classified world, is that if they wish to, they could take cells from a human and clone them. Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
imagine what has existed within the classified world, because these are the people who were these were the humans who were the spiritual descendants of Mengele and the Nazis, and Werner von Braun, and that whole
You're talking about the scientists.
The scientists who were brought into these classified projects and who were at the foundation of the CIA and the early space program. And so the highly compartmented programs that deal with this issue have. And this is the thing, everyone talks about the anti-gravity and this and that. What they forget are the enormous advances that have happened between the early 40s and now in genetics and bioengineering and neuroscience.
Well,
and those have gone into application where they now have created these creatures that people think, oh, that's an extraterrestrial. I said, it is not an extraterrestrial. So the whole thing is deliberately become confused so that people will make an assessment that there are the good aliens and the bad aliens. And if we step into that cowboys and Indian mindset, they can then divide the human race into another war footing that will fulfill the majestic plan that was hatched in the 50s that will take us, as Douglas MacArthur said in his last address to the Congress, to interplanetary war, and that was just the World War III they want. So most of retail ufology, I would say 90+% of it, has embedded within it this message and this information and these images for the purpose of majestic. Now, I think people do it completely innocently because
I want to ask a direct question here because this is personal, and I haven't said this on camera before, so here we go. I'm an abductee. And I'm a mountaineer, and I was abducted out of my tent in December 1981 in the Himalayas on the slopes of Makalu, which is in Nepal, on the border of Tibet. And that wasn't done by the military. This was done in December, in winter in the Himalayas, and I was taken out of my tent, floated over the glacier in the middle of the night, and it was minus 40 degrees. This wasn't the military who were doing that. They couldn't do that.
Well, I'm not saying all contact has been military. I'm being very specific. I'm saying that there's enough. Let's look. If you have a nugget of gold and you dump a whole bunch of fool's gold on it, then no one's doing an assay. And the question becomes, what part of it is extraterrestrial? What part of it is interdimensional? What part of it is man-made? And what part of it is some mixed up where people... And here, I'll make it a little more complicated. There are people who've had ET contact. And when these classified projects find out about it, they will then target them for an abduction, so that their paradigm and their perception of this will become confused.
Okay, but I think what happens here is that we are aware of this level that you're talking about. We're aware of all these different dimensions because we basically not dimensions, but dimensions of this argument, because we have been exposed to these levels by different secret witnesses, okay? And I think if we have a disagreement, what it is I don't know if it's completely, it's not an either or question. It's a how much. It's a percentage, as you say. It's going to be, is there sometime abductions that are ET related, that are real ET related, okay, and handled by a certain group of ETs? Is there a MyLab element to it, and is that maybe the largest portion? Highly probable, okay? But is it exclusively that there are only good ETs? I think that when you extrapolate that, that's where I have a problem, because I think that's philosophically a problem, a limited way of looking at reality.
No, I think the problem is a Manichaean view that has to divide entire species into good and bad. This is precisely what Hitler did when he would say, you know, the Jews are bad and they're dirty and they're this. I think we have to be extremely careful.
Well, I don't think it's necessary to do that quite so much as it is in terms of the overall. I mean, we're talking universes. Okay, we're talking multiple species out there that go, you know, beyond this solar system, certainly, and we're talking about life in general.
But the point is,
I don't think that we can sit here and make a statement like what I heard you say on stage yesterday, which was there are no bad ETs.
No, I think you can say that there is no evidence that the planet has been invaded by hostile, is the word I used, civilizations
so far
that have an intent.
That you have not, in other words,
you can't prove a negative. This is axiomatic.
Well,
what I can say,
so we have a problem.
You can't prove a negative.
In other words, that's the point.
But it is the point. You can't prove a negative, but what you can do is go with the evidence that you do have. And one of the sets of evidence we have for SECRETA, which has gone around the world and made contact all over the world with thousands of people, we have never had a harmful event happen. We have never had anything resembling anything that has frightened or harmed anyone on the contact team. Yep. On the other hand, we have had members of our team that have been targeted with these psychotronic-related military-type abduction events, including myself.
Right,
and so what I have to go with is the evidence that I have, and I also know that there is the stagecraft, to use an Institute for Strategic Studies document that I have, that talks about the stagecraft of abductions because of its psychological warfare value to the agenda of an us versus them Manichaean worldview that would redound to the benefit of the military-industrial complex. So this is very circular. And I think that what I'm saying is one has to be very careful if you're going to be involved with disclosure and contact and saying this group is bad, this group is good, we're good and we're bad, and we're slipping right back into the Israelis versus the Palestinians, the Jews versus the Christians, the Muslims versus the whatever.
But this is not where we're going.
But if you say that there are bad aliens that are working with a secret government.
The language is actually service to others versus service to self, and that in itself is also a matter of degree.
But you
so
can't
it's not
make that
really
judgment.
good.
See, here's the problem.
Well, none of us can. That's the whole point.
Well, that's my whole point. And I think before one starts going down the path of the sky is falling, and we start unleashing this Manichaean worldview of here are the ones that are service to others and here's the ones that are selfish, I would say that there's some enlightened self-interest everywhere. And let's back this up just a little further. Let's say that these civilizations...
Especially by the invaders.
By the who?
If there's an invasion race, then enlightened self-interest is going to be the predominant model by which they're going to operate,
and you know, you're entitled to that.
I'm
positing, all I'm doing here, look, until it actually happens in black and white.
Who has been invaded? And
there is evidence. In other words, you can get evidence on both sides of the question.
Well, but to characterize it as an invasion, what if there is an interstellar group that have different ones of them have different functions? For example, I'm going to take this a little further. There's one group that has a very specific function. You might call this the Noah's Ark function. That this planet is under tremendous environmental stress. We're losing thousands of species and plants and animals. I've spoken with people about the landing in Provence of this ET craft in a lavender field, and there were these little ETs out picking lavender, and it sounds hilarious.
Just like
what were they doing?
Just like the movie.
Absolutely happened, and it left physical trace. Could there be a human genome project that's trying to protect the human genome and a genome project for Gaia, the Earth. There could be all kinds of things going on that are beyond our ability to say, that's happening by people who are selfish and invaders, and that's happening by people who are the good ones.
Yes.